Thank you, Chair. Hi, members. My name is Layla Abdelaziz. I'm the Legislative and Government Affairs Director at CAIR Florida, the Council on American Islamic Relations. We are a nonprofit organization committed to defending the civil rights and civil liberties of all Americans, and also challenging the narratives that propagate Islamophobia through our state and country. First and foremost, I wanted to speak on House Bill 527 and not the resolution, because the resolution is, of course, as you all know, a non-binding opinion of your body, which you have the right to do. But this bill is far more frustrating and I think upsetting for those of us that work in civil rights and civil liberties. Boycotts have been held time and time again by the Supreme Court to be protected free speech. When you vote on the bill that you are about to vote on today, please realize that, as sponsors have said of this legislation, that the intent of this legislation is to get the state to boycott those that boycott the state of Israel. You have heard many definitions of the BDS movement today, but I think that the most academic definition of the BDS movement, which is the boycott, divestment, and sanctioning of Israel or companies complicit in the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian people, is that after decades of no political resolve, after no peaceful resolution had been met, and after the international world really portrayed and understood the Palestinian people to be a violent people, Palestinian civil society came together and enacted a non-violent, grassroots global call to the boycott, divestment, and sanctions of the state of Israel and companies that are complicit in the Israeli occupation of the Palestinian people. Now, this bill is not a pro-Israeli bill. This bill is an anti-human rights bill. For example, it's also very wrong and inaccurate to conflate supporting BDS to being an anti-Semite. I mean, this is very dangerous and it's very unfounded. For example, the company Caterpillar, which is an American company that's used in the home demolitions of Palestinians in the West Bank, it has been removed from an ethical guidance index because of its involvement in its bulldozers and demolishing Palestinian homes. Members, people that spoke today alluded to Israel's justice system. An American woman by the name of Rachel Corrie was actually run over and murdered by an Israeli military official in a Caterpillar bulldozer because she was trying to prevent the demolition of a Palestinian home. Her family never received justice. Her family sued and took Israel to court for a ceremonial $1 to seek justice for the death of their daughter, and they never received justice. An American U.S. citizen boy living in Tampa, Florida, 14 years old, last year, the entire world watched in 2014 as he was arrested and beaten by Israeli military officials. His family will never receive justice for what happened to him, a 14-year-old boy that was knocked unconscious by Israeli military officials and then put in house arrest, prevented from getting the medical treatment that he needed. What it means to be a Palestinian living in occupation is home demolitions, the illegal land usage by the Israeli government. And if you're talking about willing peace partners, as we speak today, the creation of settlements, the establishment and the development of settlements in Palestinian land in the Western territories is ongoing. This is something that the Israeli government is doing against international law and against our federal government's policies. If you want to study BDS, I urge you to study BDS. But more than anything, CAIR Florida, the National Lawyers Guild Association of South Florida, and many civil rights and civil liberties organizations have written members saying that our concern with this legislation is not the politics behind it, but that you are effectually stigmatizing and attacking people's federally protected rights. To what extent do you stand in support to an ally nation if you are starting to get rid of Americans' civil rights and civil liberties in the name of doing so? This is not a pro-Israel bill. This is conflict escalation. This is not getting anyone anywhere, and boycott is federally protected free speech. When this legislature in 2012 passed a similar measure that would add companies to a scrutinized list if they did business with Cuba, that was the Cuba Amendment in 2012. A federal court immediately struck it down. This legislation has been called unconstitutional. It's been explained and time again. But I think it's very shocking if you all are not willing to have an honest conversation. If you want to oppose BDS, and if you think that it is your duty as a Florida legislature to oppose BDS, then so be it. But that's your personal political position. You cannot stigmatize and quell a human rights, grassroots, nonviolent movement. Desmond Tutu, Alice Walker, musicians, academics all over the world are signing up to support and endorse BDS because it is what as an individual, a consumer can do. And it is not, I'll give another example of what BDS means. There's a company called SodaStream that was very popular in the West. They sold a machine that you can use at home to make soda products. They had a factory in illegal settlements in the West Bank. People around the world called a boycott of SodaStream until they closed down that factory. It's a temporary boycott until human rights violations are addressed, until human rights concerns are spoken to. It's what we should be proposing. The final thing I'll say on this bill is in Israel, this is a global movement to shut down and quell BDS. I mean, it's not questionable. But Israel passed similar legislation because there are Israelis that endorse BDS. The Israeli Knesset passed an anti-BDS bill. The Haaretz, the leading Israeli newspaper, the New York Times, and the Anti-Defamation League all opposed it because you do not quell civil rights and civil liberties. You do not take people's freedom of speech away in order to support an ally. That is not how you have a comfortable conversation, an honest conversation. So please consider what this legislation, the bill in front of you, will do to stigmatize free speech in our state. That should be your concern here. And it should trouble all of you that we are boycotting people for their federally protected political speech. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a couple of questions for you. If you would indulge the committee members,
I would be happy to.
Representative Comby.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
You speak so well, but there's a couple of questions come to mind listening to you. Do you believe that Israel has a right to exist,
Absolutely.
the Jewish state?
100%. I'm a Palestinian. I was born in Palestine. I'm a refugee.
Okay.
I go to Israel, Palestine all the time, and I do.
Here's how we do
Sorry.
it. He recognizes you to answer if he's willing to do that. So let's do it that way.
I'm fine for y'all to do a series. Just let's not talk over each other.
Okay.
You go right ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When you talk about the Middle East, as we commonly know, what the Middle East what are the best democracies in the Middle East as far as
It's a very complicated question. You're talking about a region of the world that was colonized and under imperial rule for centuries. So I think that, when Britain and France were leaving the Middle East, the establishment of nation states in the Middle East was not natural to the civic society of those people. So we have been partners and allies with the dictators and the oppressors and the autocratic rulers of many countries within the Middle East. Saudi Arabia is arguably our second largest ally in the Middle East. And Saudi Arabia is one of the most oppressive governments in the world. People in the Middle East are not represented by their governments. They want democracy. They want freedom. And that's what the Arab Spring was about.
I think you're exactly right. When you look at the list of countries that have serious human rights violations, Saudi Arabia is big on that list. Have you all called for a BDS of Saudi Arabia or any other country for that matter?
So I think that this is a very valid and interesting question because the point as Americans, as American citizens, the largest amount of our foreign aid money goes to Israel, to the state of Israel. So we feel that we are directly complicit in the occupation of the Palestinian people. The U.S. time and time again protects Israel against global human rights violations in the Security Council. So we think that we are very directly complicit in this occupation more than anything else, and we can urge our government to be a more honest peace holder.
Okay, I'll ask you again. Have you or your organization called for a BDS of any other country other than Israel?
Saudi Arabia and any other countries are not occupying any other people. So I just don't think there's no premise there.
Answer no. That's what I'm trying to get. Is it either yes or no? You have or you haven't?
We have not called for BDS. The Palestinian Civil Society has called for BDS. We're just protecting people's freedom of speech.
Do we have new questions? Mr. Representative Pilon.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you tell the panel and the audience that may not be familiar what the acronym CAIR stands for?
Council on American Islamic Relations.
Next question. Does your organization support the Muslim Brotherhood and/or Hamas?
Absolutely not. We are a U.S. nonprofit, nonpartisan, 501c3 organization that is good standing with our federal government, and we work with every single federal and state law enforcement agency daily. I don't think they would work with us if we did.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agreed with very much of what you said regarding the virtue and the value of boycotting as a tool for political and social change. My question is this: why would the state not have the same ability to boycott those who choose to boycott Israel? Like, it seems like if we uphold as a value premise boycotting as an appropriate tool, why would the state of Florida have less access to that tool by not allowing us to not have our SBA participate with companies who participate in the boycott?
Because at this point, it is the state quelling free speech. An individual's right to free speech, a business's right to free speech, an organization's right to federally protected political speech. The state cannot stigmatize it. The state cannot attack it. The state cannot quell it. That is why we have the Constitution.
Mr. Chairman, yeah, I totally agree. The question is, do businesses have a right to investments from the state pension plan?
They absolutely do they cannot be punished from receiving those investments because of their political speech. That is the correlation. You cannot say you're a Democrat, so I'm going to withhold state contracts or state investments from you. You can't choose someone's political ideology to be the reason why they can't get that money or contract.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Do you think there's a distinction between someone's political ideology or expressed beliefs and then their corporate conduct? Because I'm sympathetic to that.
Sorry, what was the second part of that question?
Like, do you see a distinction between a political philosophy or ideology and then corporate conduct?
I think corporations have a responsibility to be ethical, if anything at all. And if, for example, you're invested in private prison systems. I'll give you another example. 27 members of Congress last year, we worked with them directly on this research. The Israeli military system tries children, Palestinian children, through its military courts. It's the only military system in the world that does that. So if you're invested in companies that are directly going against international law, directly going against our federal government's policies, and directly inhibiting a peaceful solution, then I think it's your ethical responsibility to say, you know what, we shouldn't be invested in these companies.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
And businesses make those decisions all the time.
Representative Albritton.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
So I heard somebody mention earlier, I don't remember if it was you or not, about Caterpillar and how they
were removed from an ethical guidance index.
Yes. So let me ask you a question. I'm just curious. I'm not sure how it works, but there was some reference to Caterpillar tragically running over, regardless of the motivation, tragically killing a Palestinian young woman.
American, U.S. citizen, Rachel Corrie.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you for the correction. So are those that bulldozer, was it manufactured by Caterpillar and then purchased by somebody else? Or does Caterpillar, please let me finish, or does Caterpillar, the corporation of Caterpillar, actually designate or send their units over there to participate in this type of activities? Because I would suggest to you that boycotting Caterpillar because they happen to manufacture something that is purchased by somebody else, that may be purchased by somebody else, that may be used in a tragic killing like this, would not be fair to the manufacturer. Just like the clothes that you have on, can you guarantee me that somewhere in the supply chain of the production of those clothes that a child was not abused, or child labor laws were not abused in maybe Taiwan or somewhere else, So I'd like to ask you to please, don't
We're getting
you
awfully
understand
debatable.
from that perspective that maybe Caterpillar is being mischaracterized here?
Historically, time and time again, that's what BDS movements have proven to be not the case. The point is to force companies, militaries, countries, and nation states to acknowledge that there is a serious problem that is not being confronted, and basically consumers in a non-violent way are forcing the conversation by punishing businesses that are involved in any way possible. No, so you're saying that, like, is it fair for, so the Israeli military probably has a contract with Caterpillar and it purchases these bulldozers and then Israeli military officials drive them, right? So it's not Caterpillar shareholders or board members that are using this bulldozer in the occupied West Bank territories. But Caterpillar knows as a company that these items are being sold to the Israeli military and used for illegal purposes, purposes that violate people's human rights daily. So that is why there's pressure put on private businesses as well that are complicit and engaged and involved in one way or another in the occupation of the Palestinian people.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. We
Thank you.
appreciate you. Oh, Representative Slosberg has one.
We're good friends.
Everyone's been.
We are friends. Do you know how many Israelis are under fear of rocket attacks?
I know for a fact, because I've been in Haifa when the alarms went off, that Israelis live in constant fear of rocket attacks. I also know that Palestinians live in constant fear of rocket attacks. There is no, both sides are suffering.
Mr. Why are rockets fired at Israel?
Because the Palestinian people have been under a military occupation for 70 years and don't have access to developing their economy, don't have access to their ports, don't have access to freedom of mobility. They are frustrated people. Robert Pape, who's the leading researcher at the University of Chicago that understands the motives behind these kinds of groups, will tell you time and time again that this is a political frustration when a community or society has no other way to interpret or respond or react to oppression. They lead to violence.
Thank you. Do you support firing rockets at Israel?
Absolutely not.
Does your organization support firing
Again, we're
rockets at
an
Israel?
American-based 501c3 civil rights or civil liberties organization. We don't take positions on foreign problems, but we absolutely do not support rockets being fired at anyone.
Well,
Let's make sure we don't talk over each other. Go ahead.
you know, in your last statement, you know, you sort of said that it's fair.
I did not say that it's
That's
fair.
right.
I said that this is why it happens. We have to be pragmatic and understand why problems happen.
We may disagree with the characterization of each other's question. Let's be careful about that in both directions and not talk over each other. Mr. Representative Slosberg.
Getting back to you know, the first question, you know, I know that you said you support Israel's right to exist. On the other hand, it just wasn't clear to me how, you know, like your rationalization that rockets should flow into Israel. I mean, I just
I don't think we're talking about the bill at this point, and let's use that for debate. I would appreciate that. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Appreciate you
Thank you all.
being here today.